Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me immense pleasure to be here. When Dr. Anil Garg called me, I would like you to participate in this Make in India session because you are one of the premier manufacturers who started the business in this country and have seen all the ups and downs. I was more than happy to be part of it, and I would like to briefly tell you what happened. More than that, what we need to do to promote Make in India, which is the Prime Minister's ambition and also clearly articulated policy. And all I can tell you is I had a chance to be with the PM, who was the then Chief Minister of Gujarat in 2011. We inaugurated a 30 megawatt solar PV plant on October 14th, 2011. And for your information, that was the largest solar plant in the whole of Asia at that moment. Okay, we have come a long way from there, going even well past 1,000 megawatts. At that time, during the inauguration, he said, "My dream is to make India the solar capital of the world." And that was 2011. And he was very, very keen that we take the energy to millions. And it was an article of faith on the part of Mr. Narendra Modi, the then Chief Minister, and which he is living up to it even today in all the forums. His commitment to COP21 and also repeated efforts to kickstart Make in India for solar PV panels and modules. And on the other side, enormous impact on spreading the solar energy. All I can tell you is that the revision of National Solar Mission from 20 gigawatts to 175 gigawatts in the year 2015 was a major turning point. At that time, we had Reinvest conference in Vigyan Bhavan, chaired by the Prime Minister, inviting all the international investors to come to India, put up solar manufacturing units, and then grow with it. And we are here to promote renewable energy, in particular solar. I recall that many manufacturers came from world over. It was a global meet. And there has been a lot of commitment during that meeting that large-scale investments will come. It covered almost who's who from China, starting from Trina, then GCL, and JA Solar, Canadian Solar, and many more, Harian Solar, etc. And also one of the Indian manufacturers, Adani, also committed 1 gigawatt plus investment. When you look at the progress between 2015 to 2017, barring the investment by Adani, not many manufacturers came up. When you look back why it has happened, why there is no interest in manufacturing in the country, between 2015 and 2017, we also saw the prices plummeting for solar PV panels by more than 40%. Systematically, year after year, it came down, with the result that there is been no motivation for any global manufacturer to come and manufacture these solar panels, be it wafers, be it cells, be it modules in the country. Because unless there is going to be a return on investment, there is not going to be any attraction for anybody to come and invest. Adani group of companies invested. Apart from them, some of the Indian manufacturers who were there have also invested, scaled up the capacity. It is starting from Jupiter Solar, Tata Solar, and many other people who have come and moved up. But these are all marginal additions to capacity of 100 megawatts to 100 megawatts. Not many gigawatt players came up except Adani at 1.2 gigawatts. prime reason is extreme volatility, uncertainty, and no guarantee of returns in manufacturing. I would like to share with you, I have seen the journey of solar from 2007 to 17. It has been a remarkable journey, particularly for consumers who are looking for energy at lower and lower prices, and also the governments who are wanting to sell energy and make it available to commoners at lower and lower prices. It has been a remarkable journey. I remember the first solar PPA was signed at 17.91 rupees per kilowatt hour. At that time, if you look at it, it was almost 42 to 43 cents per watt. The latest, which most of you have in your fingertips, which is 2 rupees 44 paise, is about 3.75 cents per watt. That has been the journey of solar. Almost 10% of what was the prices, it crashed by 90%. And I must tell you, honestly, I would like to thank the Chinese companies for making this happen. If they have not invested and also audacious goals of dominating the global solar markets, this could not have happened. If you look at the previous 4 years, 2007 to 10, the prices were coming down because of the penetration of solar, but it was more 3%, 4%, 5%. It started with $4.5 when we invested about 200 megawatt in 2007. And today, I said to think that we are at 30 cents to 34 cents from Chinese companies, and Indian companies cannot produce at that rate. So while I thank the Chinese, I also feel the rest of the world has allowed them to dominate. They have not taken proactive steps required to promote this industry. I was looking at some of the figures, and you will be astonished, 2016 was a remarkable year for solar. The demand and installations went up from 50 gigawatts to almost 76 gigawatts in 2016. I'm expecting it to touch closer to 80 gigawatts this year, 2017. Things going well. Almost 9 months into the year, 8 months to the year, I'm expecting this is certain to happen. It will be 80 gigawatts plus. Solar installations have crossed 300 gigawatts worldwide. And next 5 years, it's expected to go to 776 gigawatts as per the Eurosolar forecast. So I am clear that solar is here to stay. Solar will dominate as a major source of power across the world, and including a country like India. And Prime Minister's ambitious plan, every year, minimum we have to install anywhere between 10 to 20 gigawatts. Only then this dream can be fulfilled. Reaching to every corner of the country, affordable energy at remarkably lower prices, 3.75 cents is equal to 2 rupees 44 paise. Unbelievable numbers. Today, it is the lowest cost source of energy compared to any other forms in our country. Now, the next question comes, while we have achieved the important task of bringing down the tariffs by sheerly competitive bidding, I must compliment MNRE and the current Minister for Power, Coal, and MNRE, Renewable Energy, Mr. Piyush Goyal, who ventured on reverse auction. Once he started that exercise, the prices started falling in a big measure. Until the time, worldwide, the prices were much, much higher. And we must thank him for that. And a great initiative, particularly after Supreme Court said all the natural resources must go for auction. He stuck to the directive and he made it happen. Now, coming back to this critical topic of Make in India, where do we stand? What we need to do? We have to work very, very hard. We are nowhere near Chinese companies in terms of cost structure, in terms of capacities, in terms of ecosystems. In short, everything is lacking. First thing I would like to share with you is, in terms of capacities, most of the Indian companies are today operating in a capacity ranging from 100 to 1,000. Only one company is 1,000 plus, and average is about 250 megawatts. Compared to this, top 12 companies from China are operating with a capacity of 5 gigawatts. So entrepreneurs need to have faith and also move forward with the large-scale investment. That's one of the things that is required, an article of faith. Second point which I would like to share with you is, if we start the work today, it will take 3 to 4 years for these capacities to come up. It will come up in stages because fortunately solar is scalable. So my own expectation is in about 2 years' time, we can see ecosystems also coming around. Like our country is so large, we need at least 4 solar manufacturing hubs. One in south, one in north, one is east, west. I am just more giving it geographic spread, but country can decide on 4 major manufacturing hubs, wherein some ingredients are required. One is continuous source of power. Unless and otherwise 24/7 power, uninterrupted, high quality power is provided, there is no way manufacturing can succeed. Because whenever there is power interruptions, we either switch to gensets or otherwise you suffer losses in the form of rejections and the process is on. Okay, so first major ingredient is power, uninterrupted, high quality power. Second, I would like to also emphasize the cost of power has to be low. It cannot be industrial power at prices ranging from anywhere between 10 cents to 15 cents. We have to have a subsidized power systems, power tariff available for manufacturing of solar. These 2 ingredients are a must to ensure that we develop a competitive solar industry. Third is a strong ecosystem. That means, many of you would have seen the fight that took place between Detroit and Tokyo in terms of automotive manufacturing. Detroit as a manufacturing hub almost became non-existent. The big 3 were dominating, but no sooner than 10 years, between 1980 to 1990, it all moved towards Japanese hands. One of the primary reasons is all the components were coming for Japanese manufacturers within radius of 50 to 100 kilometers. Whereas in Detroit, the components were coming all across the world. So you do not have control on quality, you do not have control on just-in-time manufacturing. Sometimes some components are available, some are not available. It is true of India also. I used to visit Tata Motors way back in 1980, is to see a lot of vehicles without tires being parked there, and tires will come after 2 days or 3 days, then they will put. Anytime you disrupt a chain of manufacturing, you can be assured you cannot be competitive because it costs money, it delays, it is there. If you look at it, Maruti Suzuki and Hero Honda, which came up in 1980s, phenomenal success stories in the country, mainly because all their supply hub was very close to the manufacturing stations. It is just like Toyota's just-in-time manufacturing. So we need to promote all the components, ingredients required for solar manufacturing around these hubs. Create a solar park of 1,000 acres or 2,000 acres and allow the manufacturers to come there, provide them basic infrastructure in terms of power at very attractive prices, high quality power, then also see to that well-laid infrastructure is there so that the components can be developed. This is all easy, and the government is also keen to do it in terms of solar parks. But now comes to the important issue of the raw materials. If you look at the solar manufacturing panel, which is the output, there are 3 stages. First is polysilicon. Polysilicon to ingot, ingot to wafer. This is the step number 1. Step number 2 is the cell manufacturing, which is a process like the first one. Step number 3, which is the module manufacturing, is an assembly process. It can come up anywhere in the country. Once we understand this mechanism, process and assembly, and the differences in these two, we will be in a position to succeed in the mission of Make in India in a great measure. Nearly about 75% of polysilicon manufacturing is concentrated in China today. And they have built size and scale and technology to such an extent, others will find it difficult to reach. Also, there is no new investments coming up from US, Japan, or Europe in polysilicon manufacturing. So if we want to start, it needs a mega scale investment drive. 1 gigawatt of polysilicon manufacturing comes to about $220 to $250 million. You need to have at least 5 to 6 gigawatt scale, which is $1 billion investment. And it can be through competitive bidding. The government can call for potential manufacturers who are interested to come and put it, whether it's American or European or Japanese or Chinese or any Indian company which is tied up with the foreign companies. But it is important that timelines and delivery are vital. Not that you start the project and it goes on and on without any end. It has to be like a metro project which we have seen in Delhi. On-time delivery. Second major important ingredient to succeed in polysilicon will be, today the polysilicon is being sold at $15 to $16 per kg against the cost of manufacturing of $20 per kg. It is being undersold at a loss. And if any new entrepreneur has to come and put up a polysilicon plant, he is not going to accept this because ultimately we are all driven by return on investment. What is that I will get at the end of today, 5 years later, 10 years later? What I find is there has to be a mass scale capital subsidy must be there, especially for promoting polysilicon. If you recall that Dr. Sam Pitroda in 1990 commented on this, we don't have polysilicon fab in the country. It's now close to 27 years. No newcomer has come. Nobody has ventured. People talked about it. Intel was to come, AMD was to come, Bosch was to come. But somehow or other, final closing has not taken place in all these cases, despite the fact that there were keen desire. They were all talking about investment of $5 to $6 billion. So my view is, first is polysilicon, a major policy decision by the policy makers, communicated to the power minister. They are looking at some sites in Bangalore where NTPC has got the land available and they are willing to supply power at attractive prices for this particular manufacturing. This is a very, very vital ingredient. A country like ours needs minimum 1 plant, if not 2 plants. This is the first important recommendation I would like to say. Second one is the cell manufacturing needs 24/7 operation. We cannot say that you operate 6 days in a week, not 7 days. You operate 2 shifts, that doesn't work. If you operate on 24/7, efficiency improvements are there. There is cost reduction. Ultimately, you get also superior product. Particularly cell manufacturing is driven by strong process improvements. And our own experience is, we have put up a plant in 2007 at an efficiency of 14.5% to 15%. When we started running in 2016, we almost hit an average efficiency of 17.5%. That was mainly because superior quality materials, because the quality of wafers have improved substantially, quality of paste, everything, thanks to Chinese. They are the only people who are driving this industry today across the world. That's one side, and our own team, which improved process of manufacturing. So this is the ingredient number 2. We need to also have a tougher laws in terms of workmen shutting off the plant whenever they're like. It cannot afford because it's a fiercely competitive industry. Today, cell manufacturing, if you get 10% margins, it's a great thing. It's no more 15% or 20%. if you don't have polysilicon manufacturing, you can be sure that Chinese companies will start increasing the prices of polysilicon and our cell costs will continue to be high. Because in a cell, nearly about 55% or 60% is the cost of wafer only. That's the second point. Third point which I would like to say is module assembly. It is one of the simpler process, but top level efficiencies are required in terms of electronic assembly manufacturing, whether you must have seen in Taiwan and China, Japan, and all these places. It calls for a dedicated, more decentralized approach, because one of the major challenges in module manufacturing and module delivery to site is transportation and packing costs are very, very high. Unless and otherwise you are able to bring down the transportation and packaging costs, you will continue to find it difficult to manage the cost. Of course, China delivers all the way from China with an excellent packaging, and also by sea or by air. Air is now almost ruled out. By sea, and they're able to deliver in 20 days, well-packed condition, excellent delivery. But since we don't have that level of scale, Chinese manufacturing capacity is close to 80 gigawatts. We don't have anywhere near that. Our manufacturing capacity today is only 3.2 gigawatts for cells and 8 gigawatts for modules. And out of these, actual utilization is, cell utilization is 1 gigawatt, module utilization is closer to 3 gigawatts. So it is an underutilized capacity in our country. And the biggest challenge is we cannot fight with the Chinese, who are also pumping the materials because there is no check on their dumping in the country. So this is another reason, because our infrastructure, when you look at it, all the cities are well connected, most of the towns are well connected, but when you look at the actual delivery points in solar parks, it is last 20 kilometers is a very tough to deliver. I have seen thin film modules breaking down in no time, 5% rejections, 6% rejections, if you are going to take it to the site. Fourth point, which I also would like to tell you, is globally, every country has found it is impossible to compete with the Chinese. If you look at 2016, their balance sheet of top 12 companies, more than 11 of them have lost money. Only one company made marginal 1% profit. So everybody is selling below capacity, below the cost. And their cost is, for India, it is a special price of 30 to 34 cents. For their own country, which is also another major consumer, it is 40 to 45 cents. For Japan, it is 45 to 50. For Europe, it is 46 euro cents. That's the minimum import price, which is outlined by the European Union, European Commission. And in US, there are anti-dumping duties, and which is likely to be further increased shortly. For whatever reasons, I don't want to delve into the past. We did not take action on anti-dumping duty because in 2014, we had anti-dumping duty investigation, and findings was you can impose anti-dumping duty anywhere between 50% going up to 250% on the imports from China. At that time, the government, which came into effect, the investigation results came out on May 22nd. The new government took office on May 16th, May 26th. And they said, we want to penetrate solar. Since our country doesn't have capacity, we will ensure that we will give you adequate orders to fill up your capacities, allow the Chinese imports. We went by that. But when I look back 30 months later, after the decision in the same place, it took place, we had a meeting on August 22nd, 2014, when it was addressed by Mr. Piyush Goyal here, saying that I admire what the solar manufacturers have done. We will ensure that adequate support is there. From their side, they have done it. But what has happened is some American companies have gone into WTO, and they have said the so-called domestic content requirement, which is there, which was specially allocated to domestic manufacturers, got challenged. You cannot have special reservation for domestic content, which is against the WTO regulations, trade regulations. Their ruling was that if you are going to use panels for your own use without an element of profit, you can have domestic manufacturing. But if a company like NTPC or somebody else is going to use domestic panels but sell it at a profit, then we will not, you have to allow international competitive bidding, and free trade has to operate. Because of which, last 3 years, domestic manufacturers suffered badly, bled badly, and almost on the stage of virtual bankruptcy, and in the throngs of IBC, which is Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, they are all being hauled up in NCLT. I hope that will change in the coming year, because currently the government has accepted so-called the application for anti-dumping duty and safeguard duty. The application was launched for anti-dumping duty on June 5th. The Gazette notification came out in July 21st, and I am expecting anti-dumping duties to come, because Chinese companies cannot be so unfair, blatantly unfair, to ensure that the domestic manufacturing shut the shop. So this has been realized right from PMO's office and Power Minister's office and all others concerned. They have all ensured that let the quasi-judicial process continue. Whatever is the outcome, we will follow it. So we will wait for the outcome, which may take anywhere between another 8 weeks to about 15 weeks, 4 months. That's what I'm expecting as far as anti-dumping duty is concerned. Our request has been that at least minimum 10 to 14, 15 cents must be there. What is the price at which Chinese manufacturers are selling in China? Second point, safeguard duty. Also application has been moved, mainly because what we find is the future dumping is likely, because you must be knowing there is a company in US, Solaria, who has gone to the president asking for the following: 40 cents for cells and 78 cents per watt for modules. And this has been referred to under section 201 to the president, and the investigations are on, and I am expecting some adverse outcome will be there against Chinese companies. If it happens, then we will be opening another chapter, because huge capacities in China, not knowing where to go, and I expect these companies to come to places like India and start developing manufacturing base. So it's a long story. All I can tell you is many ingredients are required. We have repeatedly made representations to the government. Fortunately, this time there has been a good hearing from the manufacturers, and it has got a great potential in the country. This is the only industry which is growing in the country today, apart from automotive. No other manufacturing is going. You would have seen it is standstill. Second, it has got a huge employment potential of more than 1 million jobs in the next 5 years, only in manufacturing sector. Third, we have got a highly competent engineers coming out of the engineering colleges, electronics and telecommunication engineers, and also diploma holders who are valuable for this business. Many of today's research scholars are all going abroad and almost in Shanghai and around. Indian scholars, Indian PhDs. And I expect government will take a proactive step to see that R&D is also promoted, and we move forward with a great energy to make India a manufacturing hub for solar. Thank you very much.